This is the future of gaming. Magnetic keyboards and mechanical keyboards are both popular among users, but they differ significantly in design, performance, and user experience. Now, the main idea of a keyboard is to blabber your way through utilities, or the most important one, gaming. Magnetic keyboards are the newest when it comes to performance, giving outstanding response times and gaming experience. This allows gamers to break a level of skill that could outperform certain scenarios or even players. What's interesting about magnetic keyboards is that its switches are a type of electronic switch that utilizes the Hall effect to detect the presence of a magnetic field, claiming its name, Hall effect. The operation principle of magnetic switches differs significantly from that of a mechanical switch. Magnetic switches rely on analog signals, which generate continuous signals based on the change in the magnetic field to determine the keyboard's actions. In contrast, mechanical switches operate based on digital signals, relying on physical contact to transmit signals and trigger switch actions. Now, mechanical keyboards have been around for many years, and still into making, but it doesn't give an advantage in esports titles anymore. As you may know, it is relying on physical contact to produce a signal, but also at the same time, it takes for the switch to end its signal. Here we are again. The results display a surprising difference in terms of polling rate, but we will get into that later. As you can see, these are the three variants of keyboards I tested to gather the data. But before I get into this graph, I collected these results through simple math equations and using a slow motion camera rated at 24 frames per second and on 240p resolution, making the videos at 10 times slower. Back to the graph, the mad line was the only result of a magnetic keyboard, averaging at about 0.61 milliseconds raw, but the rest of the keyboards were all mechanical. Keychron K2 was showing an increase of 1.1668 milliseconds, being the slowest on the graph, but to my surprise, the Corsair K65 showed the fastest response time at about 0.25. Now that is really incredible. Moving on from its raw latency, I then proceeded to play some games, those of which are Marvel Rivals, Valorant, and Overwatch. Here are the results. Starting off from Marvel Rivals, the average game latency was producing at about 16 milliseconds, and from that, I simply added 16 milliseconds to its raw latency, giving me basically end-to-end latency. Now, as you can see, there is a huge increase in latency when it comes to games, but from each other, there were no changes at all. Now the K2 was showing a major response difference compared to the Madline, proving its speed compared to the mechanical. Now, the next game showed the exact concept of the graph, but different in terms of game/PC latency. Valorant is a more optimal game, showing numbers that are small and easier to understand. As displayed, the graph shows its same concept from each other but different in PC latency, which is at about 6.2 millisecond increase. Now, it is a PC latency as the computer doesn't have to render as much as many other high graphic games. Unlike Valorant, it's more of a strategy type game than it is a story campaign, generally rendering more details leading to an increase of PC latency. Anyway, Overwatch showed the concept again but different in PC latency, which is at about 11.4 millisecond. As I talked about it before, the wonders between the Corsair K65 and the Mad Lion is that both are different in polling rate. Now, there was a minor difference between K65 and Mad Lion, and that was the K65 was rated at 8,000 polling rate, while Mad Lion was only rated at 1,000 polling rate, which is definitely a difference between polling rate speeds and that we could determine that polling rate seems to matter. That mainly isn't important. The K65 may beat the Madline in terms of click speed, but with the features of Rapid Trigger, it changes everything. The popularity of magnetic switches owes much to Wooting's pioneering launch of Rapid Trigger technology, along with the widespread popularity of Valorant and various rhythm games. Compared to mechanical switches, the main advantage of magnetic switches lies in their Rapid Trigger ability, offering ultra-fast response times that allow users to activate keys again immediately after pressing them once without waiting for them to fully reset to their initial position. This feature completely revolutionizes traditional gaming mechanical keyboards, earning Hall Effect keyboards the nickname Physical Cheat Code, and prompting more gamers to explore and start researching this type of keyboard. There is also another feature of an ability that brings the name Physical Cheat Codes. That is SOCD. Now, when you press both keys at the same time on basically any keyboard, it fully negates movement in a game, crossing each other out, but when you turn on SOCD, its ability to activate the last input is extraordinary. Example, if you were heavy strafing left and go right while holding the left button, essentially the keyboard remembers your last input that was applied. This makes strafing an easy technique and effective to your gameplay, giving no delay of your stopping point, hence entitling its cheat code. SOCD was banned in CSGO titles as they said it was literally cheating. In conclusion, both keyboards are generally great, but when it comes to gaming mechanics or movement skills, I would say magnetic wins that section. Magnetic keyboards are overall the revolution of gaming, drawing more limitless features for players and techniques that can shine in the future for gamers. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you on the next.